What's up? I am Christian from Nino, and we have a new album coming out in a couple days. You better friggin' buy it or I'll kill you. It is called Till Death La Familia.
Now, on that new album, what's your writing process like? What comes first for you when you write? Is it the drum, the bass, the guitar, or something else?
On this album, I think the guys in the band started out with a lot of cool riffs and just a lot of cool tempos and rhythmic ideas, and probably developed from there. I mean, I didn't get to hear any of the music until they had almost songs that were about 70% done, 80% done. So I would think from my discussions with Lou and Laz that they started with some kind of rhythmic value of a song and probably went out to some riffing, stuff like that, and knowing them, they probably carved out some type of melodic chord progression that they liked for the song. And beyond that, you know, I put some vocals on it and completely destroyed whatever it was that was good about it before.
Now, do you have any favorite musical techniques? Doesn't necessarily have to be anything you do. It can be something you admire too.
You mean like favorite musical techniques would be considered theories and stuff like that? Yeah, I like fifths a lot. I'm a very 50 kind of singer, and I like passing through thirds and seconds. Sometimes added fourths make for a really nice dissonant chord if you're singing the seventh. The ninth is kind of out of my range in the key that we tune to, so I get up to about the seventh and come back to more humble singing places.
Now, what key do you guys tune on?
On all of our albums, we pretty much done C, but on this last record, we tuned a half step down to B to allow me the seventh. How nice are the guys in my band? We've done one record in A where I was singing octave roots of A and things like that, and also sevenths and ninths. But up to this moment, B is my favorite tuning up to so far. I'm really enjoying it, and it feels really natural. It's a really good place for my voice.
Nice. Now, we had talked earlier, you and I had toured on Ozfest in 2002. Since then, what have you been up to? What's like the biggest change since then?
Since the Ozfest, we changed record labels. We were on Roadrunner Records, now we're on Victory Records. They're taking great care of us, and we truly, truly appreciate their belief. We have a new guitar player who used to be in Machine Head. His name is Lou Luster. We have a new percussion player who used to be in Puya and also Ancla, and his name is Oscar Santiago. So those would be two big changes for us. Other than that, we've stayed pretty consistent. We haven't done a ton of American touring, but we've stayed pretty busy throughout the world internationally, and we're constantly in Europe, Russia, Australia, South America, Central America. And I'm not gonna lie, we avoided America for a little while, as many bands did, because of the trend changes became so apparent and very divided. The genres became very divided, and we said let's just not pay attention to that for a moment. And I think now that it's past that time, and I don't think there's a stigma regarding bands that were in different non-traditional metal genres before. So I think the listeners are ready to, at least the young music listeners are ready to take on a band like Nino, who is a little bit more metallically challenged, I guess. You know, we don't do things traditionally, and you know, we don't play the regular kind of riffs you might hear in traditional metal. So I think the world is ready.
Now, with all the places you've traveled to, do you have any favorite places? And are there any places you haven't been that you would like to go to?
Absolutely. We've not been to South Africa yet, or Africa in general, but I doubt they would probably book a band like us in Egypt or something like that. They might, I don't know, but really look forward to going to South Africa sometime.
Seether's from South Africa, right?
Yeah.
Do you keep in touch with them from being on Ozfest?
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, Sean was the one that said, you know, you guys should go to South Africa. You guys have some fans there. But I mean, obviously, usually it's not up to just the band and the fans. Sometimes it's the promoters that have to
a lot of red
really
tape.
go out of their way to really, really get the band over there.
Yeah.
But look forward to going to South Africa sometime soon. And we're going to be in Russia again in November. We're doing like 10 shows there. It's going to be a lot of fun. We always have a blast. Where else haven't we been? We've been to Japan and China, but we've never been to Thailand. We'd love to go play a show there. I think it would be pretty badass. And places that I like going to, I love going to Australia. Australia is great. It's very separated from the rest of the world, and they kind of do their own thing there. They don't really pay attention too much to what's going on in the rest of the world, and I kind of appreciate that. I like people that are individualists, if you will, and that perhaps follow trends minimally, not completely, dive into a trend and stay there for a year or two and then change the trend that they like and things like that. So I appreciate their separation from the rest of the world, as well as their sense of freedom. So I love Australia. What else can I say?
Are you up for a couple silly questions?
Sure.
I have two that I ask everybody just because I can. First one, if you were a unicorn.
A what?
A unicorn.
Okay.
And you could be any color, what color would you be, and would you have any special powers?
I would be a red unicorn because I want to be different than all the other white, pink, purple unicorns. So I would be a red unicorn, and my special power would be reading the minds of people and then flying away with their thoughts. Cleansing people's minds, perhaps you could call it. But I would be the mind-cleansing red unicorn that flies.
I like that answer. This next one, feel free to pull in dead people. What is your biggest musical fantasy?
Wow, that's a good question. Definitely a good question. Biggest musical fantasy. I know for some people it may be silly and they may be like, I don't even know who that band is. Who are those guys? Nobody heard of them. Why would he want that as a fantasy? But a huge inspiration on me when I was younger and trying to learn how to become a horrible vocalist was Walter from Quicksand. So I would love to do a track with Walter from Quicksand. It's a band that a lot of people overlook, and believe it or not, they've influenced almost every hard rock, post-punk band that you listen to, and I listen to as well. So Walter from Quicksand, if I could get Walter from Quicksand and HR from the Bad Brains on one single track with me, that would be the ultimate musical fantasy I could have. It would require several napkins.
Now, when you were on the road, what are 3 things that you must have with you?
I must have my phone to keep in touch with my family, my beautiful wife, and my precious little baby. FaceTime helps, obviously, so I must have my iPhone, because she has an iPhone, and then we can FaceTime. Other than that, believe it or not, I don't want to come off like a sissy or a prissy little bitch or nothing, but I must have my own pillows. Tour buses have horrible linens and bedding.
Yes.
Everything is bad about it. There's Cannibal Corpse puke on them from a tour they did 3 months ago, and God knows what else is on there. And I want nothing to do with it. So I like bringing my own linens and my own pillows. And I blame my wife for that. She turned me into a total linen snob. Before, when I was single, I could give a shit. I would sleep on a mattress with nothing on it. It wouldn't matter. But now I want that 1,000 thread count stuff. You know what I'm talking talking about?
Oh,
Like,
I do. Once you get used to it, you're just like, oh.
Yeah. And now I'm a total snob. Blame my wife. It's her fault. I used to be cool. Now I'm just a little prissy little bitch.
No, I can feel you on that. Now, what do you guys have coming up after the tour?
After the tour, we're going to do some South American shows, Central American shows. We're going back to internationally. You know, we don't want to overdo the American market. We're definitely going to come back before the year is out to do an American tour. But we're hoping to come back with a couple of really cool bands. We'll see what happens. So immediately after this, we're going to do Central America, South America. Probably come back to do some US run. And we're going to be in Europe, Scandinavia, Russia, and the UK in November. And we're going back to Australia in January. Hopefully somewhere along the line we'll fit that amazing South American Asian tour somewhere.
Now, speaking of international, I just got to pick your brain for a minute. What's the big difference between playing other countries compared to America?
That's interesting. Well, the crowds are just as intense. I mean, the American crowds are intense, the European crowds are intense, the Australian crowds are intense, South America, they're fucking crazy. But for us personally would be the number of people at the show, at our headlining shows, I guess. Here in America, we kind of went away for a while, so we don't do the large venues like we used to. And it's the Mayhem Fest is definitely a great way for us to reintroduce ourselves to everybody and let them know, hey, we're still around. We just went away from the American market for a little while. And in other countries, in Europe and Australia, South America, our crowds are pretty intense and very vast. So I would say that's really about the only difference. The crowds are still super energetic and very into the show and extremely loving and supportive. It's just there's a lot more of them that stay interactive with us and the rest of the world. And it could be because we just stayed pretty much an international touring band for a long time.
Now, speaking of the crowds, what do you think about the difference between the mosh pits?
Well, I mean, in America they love circle pits. In Europe they love the wall of death. In South America they just like to kill each other. I don't know how else to put it, but if the entire place is one big mosh pit, I've seen things like that happen in America before, but not as of late, not that much. I think regulations changed a lot, and even perhaps broken legs and broken arms changed the way the fans think about moshing. But I think the energy in the crowd is still the same. It's just how do they react to the music and how violent will they get. Certainly, I would say the American crowds are extremely energetic, not as violent as some of the South American, Central American crowds. And in Australia, they get a little crazy, but I compare it more to like an American crazy. It's a contained craziness. It's an I don't want to go to jail crazy.
Right.
In South America, they don't care if they break their legs and go to jail. I mean, obviously they do, but not at the show.
Now I'm getting the signal that we're at our time limit. So is there anything else that we would like to include that we haven't touched up on? Links, anything like that?
Check out elnino.com, ILLNINO.com, and pick up our new record, Till Death La Familia. It's a pretty badass record, and you can hate us or love us, but our fans love us, so fuck you.